So, key is you will be back.
I will be back and back. In fact, right now, depending upon how much money we raise, we've already secured our Cedar Rapids office location. We'll be opening that in February. And we have our Davenport, we have our Eastern Iowa Staging Center, You need some place where you can have yard signs that you can distribute. You can't always bring them from Des Moines, so you need some place where you can run them to Dubuque, or run them to Burlington, or run them over to Cedar Rapids. So we've secured that location, our office in Des Moines. We're going to open an office in Waterloo. Ideally, we'd like to have an office in Sioux City, and then we've looked at Spencer, Fort Dodge, and Council Bluffs as possibilities. We think there are a lot of votes in this area for us. I'm a Democrat, but I'm an old school Democrat. I'm pro-life, unapologetically so. I believe in low taxes and tax discounting. I just don't understand where it ever became part of Democratic doctrine to tax working people, especially those working 2 and 3 jobs, to give the money away to 100 millionaires and billionaires. I don't understand how that became part of representing working Iowans. Fortunately, I've always run very, very strong amongst blue-collar Democrats who work for a living and understand how precious a dollar is. I still return cans and bottles. This is an important part of the state. Also, you have that wonderful Clay County Fair. I hope to have a booth up here, if I make it to the general election, which I expect to. I really am looking forward to being at the Clay County Fair and probably be up here almost the entire time. I'll shoot off to some other places, in the area, Emmitsburg, Algona, and Storm Lake. But, this is a good place to harvest some Democratic votes, and hopefully to convince some Republicans and Independents on June 3rd to change their registration, vote for me, and then change it back if they want to. But there's a new day coming. The Democratic Party has too often become a lobbyist firm for special interests. They don't stand for justice. I live in Polk County. But Reverend Bobby Young spoke at the Martin Luther King event on the 19th. And he talked about going to court with young people. There was a kid who had got busted for the 4th time. He had a half pound of dope. His lawyer, who was in a $1,500, $2,000 suit, wouldn't even let the judge ask him questions, and the kid paid a fine. An urban youth came up right after him, had a joint, got sentenced to 6 months. Now, Democrats in Des Moines know that that's a reality, and they don't care. They don't care about that injustice. What they care about is being able to get big government contracts or get in bed with Doug Gross so that they can basically, say eminent domain, and take private property for private purposes. And Democrats are hand in hand with him on that. Democrats in Des Moines aren't about how do we fight poverty, it's how do we exploit poverty. One of the great travesties is that no one says, how can you call it compassion to let someone go into a Papa Murphy's and buy $75 worth of cold pizza, but they can't buy deodorant and soap so they can clean up and go to a job interview? That is insane. That's not compassion. That's exploitation of poverty. And unfortunately, we have a lot of Republicans who've said things like welfare reform. I was able to get a outstanding legislator out of Southeast Iowa, Greg Hartzell, to join me. I took him out to Perkins, where at 5 in the morning, you have this waitress who's a Democrat. I said, have you ever voted for a Republican? Never. I said, well, do you support things like having folks who get benefits work? She said, yes. I said, do you support ID for food stamps? She said, I have to have ID when I go across the street and cash my check at Hy-Vee. But Craig Paulson and Linda Upmeyer oppose these reforms. They oppose these reforms. When you talk about eliminating waste, when you talk about, requiring reporting, every single government agency getting a dime should have a document that says, this is why we need it, this is what we're going to do with it, this is what the impact's going to be. And this is how you monitor us to make sure we did what we said. If we didn't get it done, this is why we didn't get it done. And this is why we should still exist whether we did or didn't. There aren't Democrats and Republicans asking for that. Because they're trying to get a tax cut for their post offices, or they're taking money to build buildings in the name of poverty, like Jack Hatch does. And I like Jack. But Jack's made a lot of money off the government without ever doing his job of advice and consent and making sure there aren't 4 people from Urbandale on a commission. Jack's gotten a lot of money from government and has never said, since he started getting this money, we need to stop funding students that don't exist that cost hundreds of millions of dollars a year. I was on Radio 101 with Governor Branstad last year. He didn't deny it, but he hadn't done anything about it. He's saying, well, I'm going to give another $250 per pupil. Well, Governor Branstad, but why aren't you doing something about the near $750 million in annual fraud that exists from school districts and administrators claiming students that do not exist in this universe? And this is the difference between a Narcisse administration. I don't know how to do a forensic audit, but I've told people day 1, action 1, protect pensions, action 2, order forensic audits in 30 days. So I don't know how to do forensic audits, but I know how to send people in to do them. We had a contractor when I was on the Des Moines School Board that billed us for time that didn't exist. We had taped evidence of administrators saying when students drop out, we ask them if they're coming back, and if they say they are, we keep them on the books. Now, let's be honest. Government defrauding the government is almost never caught by government auditors. Almost never. You never have a government auditor who goes in and says, I don't think they're seeing 800 patients a day in this office. It's smaller than my bedroom. It's always because the wife or the girlfriend, the one who lost, calls up and reports it. So this is what happens when we order forensic audits as my second act as governor. What happens is we not only either say, wow, you guys really did honorably with the public trust, or consequences, repercussions. But we also say, you know what, during my 8 years, because I won't serve any more than 2 terms, during my 8 years, you better not lie, cheat, and steal, unless you do it in a state like Illinois. Okay.
Where it's expected?
Where it's mandated. Okay. If you're not cheating, you're not trying over there. That's the difference. Action 3. Governor Branstad, Governor Culver, Governor Phil, they should have opted out of No Child Left Behind. It is a perversion of the public trust. It is damaging our schools. It's hurting good teachers. It's hurting communities. We should have opted out of that. Action 3, I will opt out of not only No Child Left Behind, but we will opt out of the Common Core. There is no way in this lifetime or the next we should ever be part of, entertain, or even take serious the Common Core. My final action on day 1, and I tell people this, and I'm serious as a heart attack, although I hope I don't end up with a heart attack. I'm going to find me a nice thick cheeseburger. I'm going to have about 4 or 5 slices of applewood bacon on it. I'm going to give me some really good onion rings. I got to find out who has really, really good onion rings. These just can't be the everyday, ordinary onion rings. I'm going to get me a root beer float with there's this place, Classic Frozen Custard in Des Moines. It has the best ice cream in the state. I need to find good root beer. Folks in Fairfield tell me they have great root beer down there, so I have to test it. And then I'm going to go take a nap in Terrace Hill and prepare for 4 years of protecting Iowans.
Well, I think you may have just given me a mental heart attack with that description of that meal you're going to eat, but it does sound delicious. Last thing, and we got to wrap up here.
And you can get all that stuff made in Iowa.
I know. How about that, huh?
Especially bacon.
So, got to wrap up here because the rear end the mind can only absorb what the rear end can endure. So we want to get wrapped up. How can people get a hold of you? Give me your website and a way to get in touch with you.
NarcisseForGovernor.com. That's how they get a hold. And we have some really good everyday talking to people videos up there. But NarcisseForGovernor.com. And you should also listen to my speech on Martin Luther King Day. You might be surprised. My number is 515-770-1218. My scheduler is Paul Smith, and his number is 515-991-8255. 8516.
And you don't want those phone calls at 3 in the morning?
They can call me at 3 in the morning. I'm usually up. I sleep in the car. I'm usually up at 3 in the morning. Call me at 3 in the morning. I'm open 24/7 like a come and go. Also, and I couldn't have said this 4 years ago, don't be afraid to use the PayPal button on our site or send the check.
There you go. Got to throw that in at the end.
Absolutely.
So we appreciate you stopping by here in Spencer today and visiting with us, and we wish you the best of luck on the campaign trail. We look forward to having you back here in this area next time you're through.
Thank you so much.